right. Today I'm joined by Sidwell Friends head coach Eric Singletary. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you so much, man, for having me on the platform you provide.
No problem. Thank you, sir. So, coach, I know you're one day removed from a loss in the MAC championship, but I kind of know how you think. So, going back, what was probably the key adjustment that you probably should have made in thinking about winning that game yesterday?
Oh man, I've been wrecking my brain all day thinking about that.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, you know me well. I think they provide, the unique challenge of being able to switch every screen
Mm-hmm.
with their length, and I think that we just didn't have enough catch and shoot opportunities. I think a lot of guys were, trying to look for a perfect shot. When you're playing against an athletic, long team like that, you just got to take the same shots that we did in the first quarter. I think we had a blazing start, and I think once they kind of hit back, I think that kind of got some of our, guys a little more tentative at the wrong time in such a big game. So other than that, though, I thought we played well. We played hard. I mean, all
Mm-hmm.
three games this year, we've held them to 50 points or less. So, I mean, that's right at our target. We should be able to win those games, and we just weren't able to score enough.
Okay. Thank you. So you're getting ready now to move on into the state championship or the state tournament, excuse me. And last year you were the state champion in DC State Athletics, and you won on a buzzer beater. But I think a little bit more should be credited to your team's ability to stay in that game against a very talented Wilson team. I'm pretty sure you guys went in as underdogs. If you could kind of take us back, and what was your game plan at that time against that Wilson team?
I mean, like you said, we were certainly underdogs in a lot of people's minds. I just think we had such a veteran group that played all year with the chip on their shoulder. Shoot, I mean, I think one of the greatest games we played last year that gave us supreme confidence to play against anybody was in a close loss to St. Stephen's. So I think that game really generated the confidence that I was looking for in my team. So it shows you what you can get even in a loss. So I think we came into the game just kind of knowing that the problems they presented with the Mitchell twins and the talent that they had on the floor with Jay and Dominguez and other guys. And we just knew that if we just kept the game close, we certainly wanted to dominate the pace of the game. And I think we were able to do that. And I think once we got it into that realm and where it was more about the execution of the game, we felt confident that we could, pull off that victory.
Got it. So it looks like it may be a potential matchup with Wilson again, but first you have to get out of the first round. So in a tournament like that, where you kind of may have a different opponent out of conference almost every game, like how do you game plan for that? What's your preparation like?
Like you said, at this point of the year, you can't prepare a whole lot. I mean, you just coming off 3 games in the MAC tournament that, certainly gets into your legs. And so you just talk to your guys. You watch as much film as you can. You get some treatment and you shoot some free throws. And you just kind of try to talk about theme things, culture things, and, especially to the seniors that this could be your last time playing. And, this is about us at this point, just more about how the way we execute, we'll adjust to them as much as we need to during the game. But, we certainly try to prepare our players as much as we can with as much film. And because I go out and watch so many games just as a fan of the game, I'm usually familiar with most of the coaches and most of the personnel around the area. So we won't be caught completely off guard. I mean, we know Thurgood Marshall, extremely tough team, unbelievable backcourt with the Aiken twins. And Coach Aiken does a great job with those guys, and they just play super hard. So they present a challenge in itself, with just their tenacity and how they play.
Got it. So yesterday I was at the game. I was at the MAC championship, and before the game doing warm-ups, I saw you had some famous alumni at half court kind of cheering the kids on this year's team on. I saw Jelani Williams. I saw Jason Gibson, and I think I also saw, who's the tall kid again? Ross?
Ace Stallings.
Ace, thank you. Sorry about that. Yeah, so you've created that culture where these guys want to come back and encourage your team. But I just want to go back to last year. I think at this time, Jason Gibson, was he without a major D1 offer at this time heading into the state tournament?
Yeah, heading into the state finals, actually. Just not even the tournament. Like, obviously, he had a great tournament, but just all the way to the final game, man, we were still trying to get him some takers out there. But credit to him, man. He just stays so confident all season, so focused on just enjoying his senior year, trying to get his team to be the best team they can be. So he showed incredible poise, probably even more than me. I'm sure I was much more frustrated with his recruitment process than maybe he even led on to be. So, I give a lot of credit to him.
Well, one thing we know is he's having a really great freshman year at Towson.
Yes.
And what would you say kind of contributes to his ability to translate to that college level so quickly?
I think Jason's an extremely confident player who's always played with great players. When you're a guard in this area and you grow up in this area, you have no choice. If you have the talent, you're going to see a lot of talented players that were going to test your mettle on a nightly basis. And I think the 4 years that he was here with us, he learned from Abasala, Jelani Williams, Sadiq Bey, just being around those guys. And just, he took on the mindset of being a leader in our program. Obviously, he's a deadly shooter, but also became a much better playmaker and finisher at the basket. One of the biggest areas of growth I think he displayed in this game that is benefiting him well is defensively. I think when you get to college, you have to be able to guard your position, especially from the point guard position. So I think Coach Scarry has a lot of trust in his playmaking ability, his shooting, but also his defensive ability individually and collectively, as a team defender. So I just think the type of poise and intelligence that Jason plays with translates at the next level. Obviously, we're seeing having a breakout freshman year.
Got it. So you brought up Sadiq Bey, and I'm starting to look at NBA draft boards or a lot of potential draft boards, and I'm starting to see his name pop up in the first round.
Right.
What are your thoughts on that? And also, what are your thoughts on him as a NBA prospect? Knowing him so well.
I'm so thrilled for Sadiq. I mean, just where he's come from, and just there could be no more. And I rarely use the word deserve because I just believe in grace and mercy. But he's earned the right to be talked about. Like, he's a gym rat who puts a lot of time in with this game. No frills kind of guy, very multi-dimensional, versatile player who has seen a tremendous growth, not only in his game, but certainly even physically in the genetic lottery to go from 5'9" here as a freshman to now, 6'9" player with those kind of skills. Just having a breakout season for Villanova and just super proud how he represents that university, but certainly always representing Sidwell in everything he does. So I think he has a chance to be an even more special player. I think his upside is tremendous. I think he can continue to get better. So I'm just so happy for him and his family that, they're even in the discussion of, realizing one of his dreams.
Thank you. And I looked at his stats. I think he's shooting 45% from 3 on 5 attempts per game.
Yeah.
Could you have possibly predicted that, knowing him, having him in your program?
I mean, you already know. You watch this closely, man. Like, never a terrible shooter, but not somebody that I thought would shoot it with that type of proficiency. Always had the confidence, though. Sometimes as a shooter, you got to have the confidence to do that. But certainly a tireless worker over the years here, and certainly with Villanova and the work they do to develop their players. I'm not surprised that he's doing that in the sense of the work that he's going to put in. But certainly when he was here, playmaker, scorer, but never knew that he would be able to shoot almost 50% from 3. So super proud of him for doing that.
Yeah, he completely destroyed Georgetown with that 3-point shot.
Yeah, he did.
So last question. You're a former player and you're an alumni also at your school at Sidwell Friends, and you're the leading scorer there. But I kind of wanted to know, what would you say is the biggest difference between high school players in your time there and also high school players now?
You said, what's the difference?
Yeah, like what would you kind of pinpoint as the biggest difference between players during your era and players now, high school players?
I would say that there's some pros and cons to both. I think today's kid is much more exposed to what they believe is possible. I think back in the day that college was the goal for us. The NBA was such a dream. Kind of a far-off dream. I think we kind of knew the separation between how good those guys were and how good we were. So I think that the level of how we came up in the game and the respect that we have for our peers or our contemporaries, I think may be a little bit different. But on the pro side of that, I think these kids have a lot more confidence as they step on the court, whether it's earned or not. I think they have a belief that they can compete with anybody. Clearly, the level of athlete these kids are. One thing I will say, I don't think the kids watch as much basketball. I think that they're much more distracted than we were. I think we were much more students, if not fans of the game. I think these kids play a lot of basketball. I don't know how much they watch, just from my observation over my 12 years here. But I think today's kid is a phenomenal player. Probably doesn't play as many other sports to develop those other muscles and that discussion always comes up, the multi-sport athlete. But I think today's kid is at a whole ceiling of what they think is possible, especially when you talk about freshmen and what they're able to contribute to a varsity program compared to what we were back in the day.
Got it. And I just want to squeeze one more in.
Okay.
You have Josh Hart, who's a pro. You have Sadiq Bey, who's now on NBA draft boards. They're both coming out of the MAC conference, both coming from Sidwell. And the perception in the DC area a lot of times is that in order to reach those goals, you have to go to possibly a WCAC school. Can you kind of speak to that, your knowledge of that kind of narrative that kind of floats around our area?
Yeah, I think for the most part, like I said, I've been doing this 12 years here back at Sidwell, and that narrative has been, requisite in the sense that, it probably was earned, but I think that more and more families are starting to take opportunities to go to schools like Sidwell, schools in the MAC, schools in the IAC. I mean, every conference now is like pretty strong. The talent is really spread out, and that's why you're starting to see the parity that exists in our game, where St. Stephen's can be number 2, if not number 1 in the area, where you're seeing, where Sidwell can win a state championship. These are things that hadn't happened. So I think the narrative constantly gets changed, is being written. So I think today's parent should be more knowledgeable. Sometimes it's hard to break that tradition of what their thought pattern may be and what the formula they think may be. But clearly, like you said, man, like if God's willing and Sadiq moves on, we will be the only school in the area outside of DeMatha that has multiple pros, and that's coming right out of the MAC conference. So that shows you, like, at the end of the day, we play the ultimate team sport, but it's an individual sport as well. Like, if you're willing to put the work in and God's blessed you with some talent, and like you're willing to like do all the small things and have those characteristics about yourself and the intangibles, like you can do that from anywhere. Like, there's no school that can promise you that that's the path. I mean, I always use the analogy that LeBron James, like the St. Mary St. Vincent, has not been back on TV since LeBron James has left. You know what I mean?
Right.
So at the end of the day, players make schools, not the other way around.
Got it.